Hi, my name is Hilda and this is my Druid Life. The video today is all about cycles and circles and the way I like to live my life in alignment to them. This is my first video, so I'm really nervous about this. As Druids, we think a lot about the changes of the seasons and the cycles of the sun and moon, and also the cycles of our human creativity, and how those things map onto each other and align with each other. So many of us feel lost and like we don't really belong anywhere. But when we pay attention to the cycles of nature and celebrate them on a regular basis, we really feel grounded in nature and at home in the world. Druids celebrate 8 festivals of the seasons that are equally distributed around the year, so that every 6 weeks or so we get an opportunity to really check in with ourselves and with our alignment with the season and what is going on around us in nature. Druids do a lot of things in circles. We stand in a circle when we make ritual, and we sit together in circles when we share stories of our lives. The most fundamental circle is the circle of our horizon. It's always with us, and when you're on a high point it looks like a circle all around you as far as you can see. The horizon is the place where the sun dances with the earth, and with that line going up and down, the compass points to the north, and that is the place where the sun and moon never shine. It's always dark there and cold. And in the east the sun rises and new light comes to the world. In the south is the place of highest, greatest light and the most warmth. In the west the sun sets and then it grows dark again and we come back to the north. Those directions, the 4 cardinal directions of north, east, south and west, are also associated with 4 elements, the 4 classical elements from ancient times that are earth, air, fire and water. Those elemental associations make the most sense in Western Europe, where we have the Atlantic Ocean to the west, so it's obvious that that is the place of water. Then in the south the sun is at its hottest and brightest, so that makes sense for fire. In the north is the place where the sun doesn't shine and where it's dark, just like it would be in the earth. And then in the east is the place of air, where a cold, dry wind blows that is very different from the normal wind, so it's particularly noticeable. We Druids also map the 8 festivals of the year around the circle of the horizon. I like to think of midwinter as the beginning of the year because it's very dark, but it's also the beginning of a new cycle of growing light. Next comes Imbolc, when we see the very first promises of spring on the land. Snowdrops bloom and little things begin to grow. It's a sign of hope for things to come. The fullness of spring happens at the spring equinox, when there's daffodils and things get leaves and birds begin to sing. Next comes Beltane, when everything is in flower and the birds and the bees do their thing and everything is alive and full of creative power. The summer solstice, which is associated with the south of course, it's the culmination of life and light, which is a big celebration for Druids. Next is the first harvest at Lunasa, when the corn is cut, and then comes the harvest of the autumn equinox, where we give thanks and celebrate all that we have achieved, to then come to Samhain, which is the end of the growing cycle, when things die back and we honour our ancestors, to go back again to the very darkest point of midwinter and the birth of a new cycle. The cycle of the moon maps onto the circle of the horizon in much the same way. The cycle begins at the new moon, the dark of the moon when there is no light, and it's a place of rest where we just wait quietly for inspiration to strike, which happens at what I call the maiden moon, when the first idea hits us and we're like a child with a new toy, a maiden child who wants to play with her new idea and explore and try it all out. The exploration of the maiden child leads to the waxing moon, where the idea is clarified and we decide which bits we want to keep, which bits we don't want to work with, and what exactly we want to achieve. For me, that tends to come as a little bit of a vision quest, a shamanic journey to go and find the essence of what I want to create. Next comes the flower moon, which is when we bring the support that we need to help us create what we need to create. It's the time of the moon when the flower opens and when the tree asks for the assistance of bees or of the wind to come and help it make the fruit. We don't do anything on our own. We need our friends and family to help us, to support us, but also we need the support of good food and a good night's sleep so that we are fit enough to go and do what we need to do. Or we may need to acquire materials to make whatever it is we are going to make, a piece of wood to carve something from, or maybe paints to make our picture, that kind of thing, as all supports and resources to help us with our creativity. And then we come to the full moon, which is the culmination of the cycle, of course, with the greatest light and the greatest creativity, and that is when we take our effective action. That is when we make all the decisions and do the hard work to get our projects off the ground. Next is what I call the sovereign moon. It is the time when we surrender into our creativity and just go with the flow, and everything just seems to happen all by itself. And it is in that joy of creativity that we find our personal sovereignty. Then we come to the waning moon, or what I call the harvest moon, and it is a time of harvest when we look at what we have created and are grateful for what we have been given and celebrate our achievements. The cycle ends at the crone moon, where the old lady looks back on her life and finds the things that have been valuable and the things that are not valuable, the things that were maybe mistakes and can be let go, or the things that didn't go as well. And we learn from that and then let go of what isn't useful and take with us what is useful into the time of rest, waiting for a new cycle. I like to mark the 8 points of the lunar cycle with a small ritual in my garden. I don't always get around to all 8 of them in a month, but they are important to me and a good spiritual practice for me to have, because they tend to teach me what's important to me and to my community and to the world. You might want to create your own circle with some stones or flowers or some leaves or whatever comes to hand, and put them out, maybe around a central stone or maybe around yourself, with yourself in the centre of the circle, in the point of stillness in the middle. And just see what that feels like. It's a nice exercise to do, to rest in the centre of the circle. And so I recommend you go outside and play.